up, guys? Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be working on this lawn tractor. I think it's got a Kohler Courage 20 single cylinder. This was dropped off to me and they just can't get it running. The guy pretty much told me the backstory on this thing was he got it for a little bit of nothing. He threw a carburetor at it. Looks like it's a Chinese one, and said he just can't get it running. Immediately when he dropped it off, cranking it over, you could just tell it doesn't have compression. There's signs of underneath the cylinder / head area that there may be an external head gasket leak. We'll get in there and take a look at that. It really doesn't have much compression. It's kind of scary when you crank it over how fast it spins. So first thing I think we're going to do, guys, is jump into this thing and start diagnosing what it could be. We're going to pull this spark plug out and just make sure we don't have a broken crankshaft or something like that. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Immediately when he dropped it off, I could kind of tell there was a little bit of oil and stuff right down here. I don't know if you guys can see it too well. So I'm kind of thinking it could be a head gasket. What has me concerned is when you crank this thing, it absolutely doesn't have any compression. So we could have something major going on, maybe in the cylinder head, maybe a push rod. Who knows? A valve guide, my set cut loose. Be various things. Now I do know that if it's something catastrophic, that I don't think we'll be rebuilding the engine. We'll see. We'll see what my dude says, see what my guy says about it, see how far he wants to go. But right now, we're just going to diagnose this thing. All right, let's just check the oil. Oh, yeah, he just replaced that. So they did put fresh oil on it. You probably can't even see it. Take a look. Yep. Can't quite see any metallic flakes. I should have a white paper towel to do this. Not looking too bad. I don't see anything sticking out to me. It's not saying that there couldn't be still some in there, that's for sure. Crank it over a couple times and we'll recheck it and see if you get any metal flakes on there. Just to see if we got any internal issues or not. The oil looks really good. 100%, guys, this is what scares me. One, as soon as he dropped it off, I kind of do this. And in order to know you have compression and know that everything's working properly in the head, a lot of times you can do your own leak down test per se with just cranking this thing over and listening to the suction when the piston's dropping down and when the piston's coming back up into that compression stroke. And a lot of times, if it's just nothing there, that's kind of scary. But I do hear that suction in the carb a little bit, so it could just be that blown out head gasket with the compression down. Now, I haven't pulled up the service manual on this, unless you've done a ton of these engines. Some of the stuff might be in your head. I'm not 100% if this has got a decompression mechanism, but we will do a compression test for you guys. Which I already know it's going to be way low. But we'll do that. First things first, we'll pull the spark plug just to make sure the connecting rod, nothing in there is broken on the bottom end, and make sure that's all good. But listen to this, guys. This thing just cranks over way too easy for me. Oh, well, we might have a dead battery now, guys. Appears that we do. Maybe I did leave the key on. I have to get the charger on it. All right, let's put the jumper pack on it. I'll crank it over for you guys. Crank this thing. See that? There's just no compression there, it seems to me. We'll get in there and get the oil again after cranking it a little bit. Getting that oil pumped around the engine and just make sure we're not seeing any metallic flakes or metal flakes in there real quick. Not really seeing anything there, guys. Looks pretty good. All right. All right, we're gonna pop the spark plug. See what's going on here. Read plug, dude. That's what tells you. That's what tells the story a lot of times. Well, what do you know? They put a new spark plug in it thinking, I guess this will fix the problem. Nah, I'm kidding. But yeah, there's no runtime on that spark plug. They threw it in there upon trying to get this thing going, I guess. All right, I'm not sure how well you guys can see that. You're not gonna see through my big head, but we're gonna make sure this piston's moving. And it is, so that's a good sign, guys. That is a good sign. Can I see that in there? Not sure how well you can. All right, guys, I gotta fetch my compression tester here in the other shop, but the reason I wanted to check that, and I could hear in the carburetor that little bit of vacuum. Well, it wasn't a whole lot, but the reason I checked that is those Kohlers are notorious for losing the bottom end and the counterbalancer. So they're not the best engines in the world. I think they're notorious for that counterbalancer blowing apart, and some of these Kohler Courage. Well, some of these Kohler Courage engines. So I just wanted to make sure there was nothing like a broken crankshaft or anything in the bottom end. Damn day, guys. Had the smoke rolling. So we got the compression tester here. So one thing I will say for sure, guys, is get in the habit of doing compression tests. When I do engine rebuilds and stuff, I got notes back here. I write down what my compression is. I do it on a lot of various engines, and then you start getting familiarized with what to look for, especially when you want to see, the health and state of your engine, and then not to mention diagnostic purposes. But yeah, dude, get in the habit of doing this, even though you may or may not really have to. If you want to get curious about, I guess, the heart of the engine or the health of the engine, compression tests are a must. Compression test, and then diagnosing, I guess, your 4-stroke, you would want to look towards a leak down test. 1 2-strokes as well, pressure test, leak down test. Anyhow, all right, guys, we'll get this bad boy on here. Sorry for the background noise, a noisy helicopter up there. I get that all the time. I live right by a governmental base, I should say. But yeah, anyhow, it's nothing new to me. Guys, I'll be really surprised if this thing makes any pressure at all. We'll see. Hopefully you guys can see that. I know I can't. It's nothing. Here we got something going on. We might even have a push rod or push rods jumped off on this thing. I have to open up this valve cover here and see what's going on. I know it's pretty bad, but a lot of times I'll do my own kind of leak down test with just pushing my finger over it. And I know if we're not making pressure on the compression gauge, I'm just trying to feel if this thing's just making any kind of vacuum or pressurizing it all. I really want to get one of those bore scopes so bad. One of these days, guys. All right, so what's really awesome about how they designed these engines, you gotta love it, is this shroud here will need to be removed because we can't get to the bottom bolt of this valve cover. So we're gonna go ahead and start taking this off. Interesting. These are all loose. It's looking like a valve cover. The valve cover flange there to the muffler has been loosened up too. So someone might have already been here and said, yeah, I'm not tackling this. Daggone cork gaskets are all notorious for leaking. be honest, guys, when I put them on, I leather them up with Bond, and they never leak after that. Dun 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 dun. Make sure you guys can see. Yep. What do we think we're looking at here, guys? What are these? All right. Uh-oh, I'm hearing a lot of janky jank here going on. Look at this, guys. I guessed that right, guys. I really did. Yeah. Painted it. Like, why design it that way? So we're gonna have to sneak this past here. I know my head's in the way, guys. Look at this. Exhaust is a little loose. Somebody was in here messing around with this thing. We're gonna loosen these two exhaust bolts up, and then we should be able to shimmy that valve cover out of there. Get these valves put all back together, readjusted, and still think I've seen evidence of a head gasket leak. That should be enough to probably get her out of there now. Oh yeah, I like how that one feels. They probably have the threads buggered up on it. The last guy, it didn't feel really good, I'll tell you that. Like, why? You know what I mean? Jeez, Pete. Yep, that's a problem for starters, guys. That's a problem. That'd be one reason why we're not making compression. We can get this back on here, and I'm going to look up the valve clearances. I think they're probably 4 and 6, if I were to guess, but I'm not 100%, so we'll look it up. Kohler's pretty good with finding service manuals from my experience online too, guys, so should be in good shape there. Yep, that exhaust valve is doing nothing. All right, guys, I'm not 100% if this engine is notorious for it, but I have had Briggs engines where the valve guide will move on you and not allow the valve to open and close properly. I'm looking in there. It is protruding out a little further, but I'm not 100% when it comes to Kohlers, because I've never had that issue yet with a Kohler engine, but I have with Briggs & Stratton, where the valve guide will actually shift on you, and you can either ping it and press it back in, or you have to get a whole new cylinder head. All right, looks like this is the SV600 engine. So let's look up the service manual specs for the valve lash. All right, guys, these valve lash adjustments are 7 and 5 thousandths. 7 thousandths on the exhaust, 5 thousandths on the intake. All right, we got 7 thousandths on this old girl. Oh yeah. Pretty good right there. Now, that should be pretty good. Slight resistance there. We'll jump over to the intake side. Set that to 5 thousandths. I think I just saw the decompression mechanism bump. I could be wrong. Yep, I just saw it. So we're gonna make sure that exhaust valve's opening up all the way. Yeah, something doesn't, there we go. Yep, that was a decompression. So that should be open all the way down. So this should be loose. 5 thousandths on there. Definitely a little sloppy. Way too much, guys. Now that's your adjustment screw, but I always just break them loose rather than risk torquing down on this. It's just the way I do it. May not be the way they want you to, but it's the way I do it, guys. And that out a little bit. And we're getting, it's a little tight there. Uh-oh. Here's that, the ghost. The ghost of Christmas past just walked in here. Alright, go a little bit tighter there. Slight resistance. That's how I like to do it, is just hold these sockets on these. I'm sure there's a special tool for it, guys. Got enough of them as it is for only using some of them a fraction of the time than the money you pay for them, you know. But that should be pretty good there, 5 thousandths. It's a little bit on the tight side, that's not too bad. Slight resistance. Let's see, guys, if it's changed anything here. Can definitely see the decompression mechanism working. So this surely has one. All right, guys, I'm still a little skeptical that it may be a head gasket, but this is how I do my leak down test, is put my finger here, and right there's a compression stroke, and with my finger over it, it seems better. It's 100% better. Should be, right? Let's see what we get for compression now. I know the valve cover's off, and might make a bit of a mess, but we're gonna see if this changed anything on the compression here. Yep, just gonna see if we get anything now. I'm cranking this thing over. Look at that, guys. We should have around 60 psi. About 45 there. Looks like my jumper box is dying off here. So he does have a brand new battery. I think I just left a key on. Alright, so what we'll do, guys, as you can see, we started to get some compression there. Now I can't crank it over like I'd like to, but then at least we're getting some kind of compression now with putting that push rod back on there and adjusting these valves. So one thing we could do is pop the valve cover on real quick, tighten the exhaust down, and just see if it pops off at all. All right, guys, as you can see, I smoked out the shop here. It's 100% got a blown head gasket. We diagnosed that. Got the valves adjusted, popping off and running, but it is like smoking like crazy, as you can see here. But yeah, so we're gonna get the head gasket on ordered for this thing and hope that everything goes as planned. It's got a brand new carb on there, so everything should be good to go when it comes to that. So let's get this gasket ordered up and go from there. All right, guys, so we I think where we left off, we were at 60 psi on this engine. We had it fired up and running, and it smoked the hell out of the shop. We did the little spray test. Evidence can show that there is a head gasket leak on the bottom. With it smoking so bad too, I would also assume that there is a for sure internal gasket leak as well. All right, so you don't have to put it at top dead center, guys, but I always do. Number one, when I pull the cylinder, it keeps all the crap from going in there. See, for that little bit of fire on that plug, that's really, really black. So it's a good indication that there's oil probably getting in the combustion chamber. This head gasket job is generally pretty easy. It's a single cylinder. I would have probably stayed chugging along. I try to keep some stuff in on common engines, common jobs, but only to a certain extent. It's really hard to do. I did have some head gaskets in for Kohlers. I actually got two back there and one in inside in storage, but didn't have any of these. It's just all your air box. So this guy was definitely messing with this thing. I don't know the exact backstory on it, but he surely was trying to get it going himself and threw this carburetor on here. That's why this carb looks real new, guys. Take a look here. Guaranteed to be a Chinese knockoff. Probably, I don't know, the original might have been a Wahlberg. I'm not sure. Oh, looky here. He's got this spring all jacked up. It shouldn't hurt a whole lot here. Alright, so we're going to clamp off this fuel inlet line and work on taking this linkage off this carburetor. There, we got her. Alright, we got the gas tank out of the way. The anti-backfire is plugged up and grounded out right there on the side of the case. See, that's what you gotta love about some of these. You can't even slide the carb off without stuff being in the way. Kind of hard to mess that up. Looks like he did a good job doing it. Yeah, that's a no-name. It's a no-name carburetor, Chinese carb. One of these days, we're gonna try to rig up an electric winch, get like a Harbor Freight winch, and the only thing it's really stopping me is I gotta frame something out up there in the center of the shop there. We're gonna start off, guys, by removing the valve cover. I'm gonna put this thing at top dead center too. Put this thing at top dead center with. Alright, guys, so that's on the compression stroke there. Not that that is real crucial, guys, so we're going to start cracking some of these head bolts. I do have it's a Stens kit coming in for this. It comes with head bolts and all the gaskets, the intake or carb gasket, exhaust gasket, head gasket, valve cover gasket, and I don't just slap them on either on these gaskets here. I lather them with Honda Bond, and they usually don't leak after that. Go ahead and crack these loose. As I was saying, I'm a big advocate of breaking these loose by hand, and I also always say that, you know, time is money, and you learn to do stuff more efficiently and faster. But yeah, that one's a little loose. Oh man, all three of these lower ones are loose. That's interesting. We'll check the head for warpage once we get it off. I'll probably shave the head just a little bit, or resurface, I should say. I ain't gonna, you know, take too much off, but we're definitely make sure it didn't run hot and warp the head. I'm just going to let her lay and hold that bolt. That should be just fine right there. Probably should have been over here to show you guys removing that. But that little shim will come out right there. The intake port is really smooth. I might have to pull up the service manual. Everything looks good in there. Everything looks really good. Doesn't look like we got. I might have a little bit of a leaky valve there, guys. Let's have a look at this, guys. Check that out in there. Right here is where you can see the evidence of all the oil. The other side's where I seen the leak and it was bubbling out. As soon as I seen that, I didn't go much further. I said, yeah, it's definitely a blood head gasket. So percent be holding on to this head when you remove get that last bolt off. All right, guys, let's see the carnage here. Hopefully you guys can see that. Take a slide right off those push rods. Nothing looks really damaged. That push rod did get a little boogered up, but I don't think it's going to affect anything. It's a little boogered up right there. We're going to clean them and mark those. Well, it looks like the gasket smashed over a little bit right there. That's not a good sign. Just looking for some failure points, guys. Looking like right in here and right here. Yep, right here. Alright. Sorry about the heater, guys. Alright, guys, so we're going to leak check these and just see if they leak really bad from loading these up. See, that valve was leaking a little bit. So I will probably pull these apart and check everything out, because that one is leaking a little. And we're going to go into the exhaust side now. That one's not leaking. I'm just trying to knock some of this stuff off first. I'll show you another thing I do here. What I'm going to probably end up doing is taking this in. I'll use my other grinder with Scotch-Brite pads. Alright, guys, so we got our valve spring compressor hooked up there. And we are, that looks good. We are going to work on dropping this valve. I checked it 3 times, it leaked all 3 times. So we're going to drop this valve out here. Have a look. Just rake that out right there. I like the cup, just in case anything likes to slip off, because luckily I have a local guy that is generous enough to help me out one time. But yeah, I've had one of those keepers go, I think that was on a Briggs, I can't quite remember. And I really needed to get the job done, and it was like, yeah. Showed up there, and the guy was more than glad to help me. Went out in the yard and helped me pull it off a mower. And it was neat that he helped out. Alright, there's a look at that valve. Get in there and clean all that. Looks like we could probably get away with not get him a new valve. It's got some life there. I think I could relap that in. I'll show you what I like to do to these valves to clean them up.
Really doesn't look too bad in there, guys. So I'm going to wire brush, spray this out a little more, and then we're going to get our valve compound out and start seating this valve in. Actually, we'll clean this valve up first back here, and then we'll get in here and seat it in, get some valve compound on it, do some really good cleanup, and drop it back in there and see if it passes the leak check. Alright, I just like to chuck the old girl up in the drill. As long as your chuck and everything's not bent, it's a good way to tell if you got a bent valve too. That looks really good. Just I'll take this like this. And that's pretty good. Alright, now we'll get our valve grinding compound out, start seating this in. My little suctionator cup, for lack of better terms. Spit on it though. So on there, just to try to build some suction. And I'll even take sometimes and put the drill, chuck the drill up on here. See? And you can just use the force of the pressure of your hand. I'm not sure how well you guys are seeing that, but I'm just pressing against it with my hand and spinning it on the other side. If I get tired of the suction cup not really doing its job, it spins easier. Looks pretty good, guys. Alright, we'll see how this works out, guys. Hitting it live. Excuse me. You don't want it too tight either. Where you want to be able to work that spring around to get this keeper in there. Alright, guys, sorry about that. I did get a phone call. And right after that, I dropped it in and didn't have you guys watching. A little tricky sometimes, but I was kind of caught up on the valve itself. And it kind of jolted down into place. I always work the valve a little bit. Make sure you're not going to have any... Usually I would have this taped down, but... Really cleaning it up nice, guys. How check for warpage. You get your filler gauge out and pretty much just run an X and make sure you're not seeing any daylight, which is really easy to do. If it's warped, you should be able to tell. Straight across that way. That's setting so flush on there. I can't even see through it. And of course I have hit this pretty hard on the surfacing glass there. And our leak point was down on the bottom here. I think everything's looking sweet. Looking good. Real easy to check for warpage. Don't cut corners. Guys, I've said it once and I'll say it again. Spend the extra time on mating surfaces. For sure, guys. For sure. Alright guys, I'm going to go in here and clean up this combustion chamber inside the other shop in the basement, and clean all this up off camera. And what I use, if you look at any of my last videos, or one of my last videos, I like those Scotch Brite pads, and I put it on my grinder. They work really well for cleaning stuff up. Alright guys, I just wanted to show another way to check to see if you got any leaks in your valves here. So I'm going in the exhaust side here with compressed air. Nothing. As we checked before, that wasn't leaking. Guys, I'm not going to lie. I did have to drop this valve back out. And it was leaking on the inner portion there. We just lapped it a little better, or a little harder, and it did stop the leak. No leak whatsoever. I could even blow compressed air in there before I put that water in here, and I could feel that it was still leaking. So we cleaned up that combustion chamber pretty good. I got my gaskets in now, so we're all but ready to slam this thing back together and hope that that solved our problem with smoking like a chimney. So we're gonna find out. All right, guys, we are back at it here. I got the OEM cylinder head gasket kit right here. It's a Stens 055-016 intake push rod and exhaust push rod. Alright guys, we're going to give them a little dab of lubricant here. Of course, I got some of that right on that surface. Great. Yeah, this stuff's like syrup, guys. It's what I use putting engines together. My secret serum. We'll wipe down that smudge there. And slip this. It can only go one way. So looks like the numbers are up on this. Thing looks good there. Alright guys, I'm just going to give these a dab of oil. So cold morning at 22 degrees. And I'm going to start that one in just to hold the cylinder head in place. And I'm going to come up here and do the diagonal bolt. I'm really anal once I get my gasket on. I don't like moving stuff around. I like to seat it in place and kind of keep it there now. Alright, Kohler gave us these awesome instructions. Valve clearances, everything in here. Torque down pattern. So it is 180 inch-pounds in 2 segments to 360 inch-pounds. And I went ahead and converted it to foot-pounds for you guys because that's just the way my brain likes to work. And there is the torque pattern. Just like any other 4-stroke cylinder head pretty much. Alright guys, we got our handy dandy Snap-on DR2 7000. I'm kidding. This is a good old Harbor Freight. Alright guys, we're going to do 15 foot-pounds first here. You start getting close as you move around the cylinder head. Sometimes you actually will bump the first stage as you start to lock this head down, like that right there. This might not be the exact torque sequence, but that's how I do them all. Alright guys, we're going to hit it again. 30 foot-pounds. I probably want 30 and a half to close to 31 actually though. And the reason I did that is because I got an extension on here, guys. Nice and easy. There we go. You heard my elbow go before the freaking torque wrench. It's like that. Was that the torque wrench? Nope, that's your old ass elbow there. That's funny. Alright guys, we already have the surface cleaned up, as you can see there. We'll wipe it down one more time. And then they have the cork style head gaskets that are notorious for leaking. They all leak. But what I like to do, and I'm going to do it off camera just to save a little time, is lather this up with some Honda Bond. And yeah, they usually don't ever leak after that. At least I haven't had one in a few years come back to me with one leaking. So that's what I like to do. Do it how you want. You can just slap this on here with clean surfaces, or you can use the way I do it, which, like I say, if you don't want it to ever leak, use Honda Bond. Alright guys, it 100%. I can see some smudging on my surfaces even though I cleaned them. I like to wipe them down one last time. It's definitely a lot more time lathering this thing up with Honda Bond. And you make a mess too on your hands. But alright guys, if you look closely, you're going to see that I have a Band-Aid on. And I'm just... So there's a little bit of a broken bracket here, a broken piece on the valve cover. And I'm wondering if he ain't leaking oil too really bad, because I think it probably will seal off. That's why I'm not quite putting this up here yet. We still got to adjust these valves. But I don't think it's going to break or leak. It's just something I'm going to have to test and make sure it doesn't leak. My apologies. Alright guys, so I'm going to do this off camera, but now that I'm at top dead center, we should be able to adjust both valves and get them done without spinning the crank around and opening and closing valves. So I'm going to do that off camera real quick, and we'll be back in here. Remember, it's 7 and 5, guys. 7 and 5 thousandths. Alright guys, so we got everything adjusted there, 5 and 7 thousandths. I'm going to rotate this over. It does have the spark plug in it. Should show me that it's got good compression. We just want to make sure everything in these internals is smoothing. Oh gosh. Everything in these internals is operating properly. There's a compression stroke. Feels pretty good, guys. Feels pretty good. Alright guys, real quick, just don't forget to lubricate the top of your push rod. You already seen we did the bottom. And then we're going to do the top of the valve. Same thing over here, and the top of the push rod. So guys, again, this is broken, so we're going to hope it doesn't leak. I didn't notice that. Alright guys, let's get this valve cover bolted up. And I'm really hoping I don't have a leak from this cracked piece over here. I think it should seal up, but if it leaks, we'll just have to get him another valve cover. Crisscross pattern, guys, really easy. I usually just choke them up my hand pretty good here until they feel pretty decent. I'm going to wait on the ignition coil because I am going to pump some oil around this engine, and we're going to remove the spark plug back out real quick, guys.
Alright guys, I don't know if you can see that too well. Turn this way a little bit. Let's just see what the compression gets up to now. We have this thing just about ready to fire up. Just kind of curious if we hit around our 60 psi, which I think we should. And shot up there rather quickly too, so that's good, guys. I'm not gonna let it run for real long, guys. I'm just gonna see if it pops off. We're gonna look over some stuff and check for oil leaks and everything, and just that's how I always like to do it anyway. So here we go. Well, she's not smoking the shop up now, guys. A little bit of a rough start there. I think that's external. A little bit of leanness coming from the carb there. Well, that's wide open, so it would be on the leaner side of things, and it's cool and cold. These things are probably jetted for more warm weather because we don't mow grass in the wintertime, right? I'm gonna look things over, guys, but hey, it is not smoking. So that's a good sign. Get in here and take a look. All right, guys, she's running pretty good now. We had a crankcase leak. Someone had a bunch of the bolts in the front of the crankcase, so the engine was pulling a pretty bad leak, and it found that issue. And it's running good, guys. All right, guys. Now it's time to take 5. Thanks for tagging along on the video. Thanks for jumping in here. If it's your first time, make sure you smash that subscribe button, guys. Can't thank you guys enough. All you guys that have been following along. I am going to come up with a 500 subscriber giveaway. I got something in mind for you guys. And another thing, guys, you guys can start dropping some thanks down below if you want to donate to the channel. Just a small amount, anything will help, and I promise you guys it's going to go right back into the channel. So this thing, it's definitely got a little bit of a surge on the idle yet. This guy brought it to me all tore apart, and he's the kind of guy that will work on some stuff. So my job was just to get the engine running and get the engine fixed, which was the popped off push rod and the blown head gasket. He had a new plug in it and everything. We regapped it, did all that stuff for him, and now it's just got a little bit of a surge. He definitely had some bolts loose on the crankcase, and somebody was beside him, I think, was in this thing. Long story short, we buttoned all that up. I might go above and beyond and pull the carb, because I think he's got a low-speed circuit clog, and fix that for him since everything's already right there. And just tell him, like, look, hey, dude. But anyhow, guys, thanks for watching Digging Deep. Look for more videos to come. Make sure you turn on the bell notification, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.